I was working night security at the Charleston Art College when I discovered the real threat was there all along. I really enjoyed my job at the Charleston Art College. I'd been working as a cop when I got out of high school, but I got injured during a chase and switched over to corrections. Worst mistake of my life. Even so, I kept doing it for nearly a decade. I didn't seem to think I had much of an option at the time, but after some time and some physical therapy, I managed to walk off a lot of the damage and was ready to go back to being a police officer. The problem was that I wasn't quite in good enough shape to perform the physical portion of the reinstatement, and after 10 years of listening to kicking and screaming and fielding harmless threats, I decided I might like to see what else was out there. That's how I found the night security job at the school, and that's how I discovered the strange history of Charleston Art College. It's a school for kids, for adults, for anyone who has an interest in the arts. They offer a lot of programs for established and new artists, and I had to read the article a few times to see why a place like that would need a night security guard at all. Turns out they'd had some trouble from vandals in the past, and it seemed to be better for their insurance if they had a night security guard. The position is from sunset to sunrise, roughly 8 to 10 hours. In the winter, you'll work a little more, and in the summer, you'll work a little less, but it helps our insurance premiums to have someone on the premise at night. Are you interested? I found that I was, and I started there a few weeks after my background check, drug test, and licensing test came back. The job was armed security, and I was allowed to carry mace and a sidearm. They made it very clear that they would rather I not shoot anybody, though. If anything happened, I was asked to call the police and try to limit property damage. I told them I was used to working on armed security, and that I would only act if my life was in danger. They seemed to like that answer. They put me with a guy named Charles for the first couple of nights, and he shook his head at me when I introduced myself to him. "What?" I asked, thinking he was making fun of my limp. "DOC, am I right?" he asked, and when I nodded, he laughed. "Don't take it the wrong way, partner, but it's in your bearings. You walk your rounds even when you're just walking. The belt's a dead giveaway, too. The way you wear it lets me know that you're itching to pull gas on somebody. Welcome to heaven, my friend. I think you're gonna like it here." He wasn't wrong. Very little happened here after dark, and he told me the best investment I could make was in a streaming service. "This is the monitor room," he said, as we walked into the office. "Cameras are pointed at the front and back door, and there are 2 on the back hallways and 1 on the front hallway, as well as another by the courtyard. Don't get too excited. The only thing I've ever seen on it is a bird that got stuck in here one night." Charles had been working overnight at the school for about 3 years, and he seemed to be the longest-lasting security guard they had. He made no bones about the fact that this might have something to do with his lack of following posted security checks. The super on days never checks cameras, so sometimes I just sleep in here and set an alarm before anyone gets here. I don't know why people keep leaving. This is the best job I've ever had, and I've never seen so much as a rock or a teenager with a spray can come through that door after dark. I asked him a ton of questions that night and gladly took on most of the rounds. The school was beautiful, the walls hung with artwork of all kinds, and every time I came back from a round, I was eager to go out and see more on my next one. Charles, however, would usually shake his head at me and ask if I'd seen any vandals. "No boogans or ghosties either, I trust?" he asked with a smirk and an eye roll. I asked him if that was something I was supposed to be looking out for, and he looked surprised. "I guess they stopped telling people about it. It's just something some of the night guards talk about. They say there's a lady who walks around sometimes at night." "Like a ghost or like a vagrant?" I asked. Charles shrugged. "Who knows? A couple of them have quit over it, though. They just never come back for some reason. It's weird. I've never seen much around here, so I guess it's just some people's baggage." That was how we spent the first couple of nights. I would do most of the rounds. Charles would do most of the sleeping, and in between naps, he would teach me stuff. He taught me how to run the cameras. He taught me how to put the storm doors down and the windows down in case of really bad weather. And he taught me what to do if someone did try to break in. Just call the cops, he said. It does happen from time to time. People get this weird idea that we have art in here, like expensive art. They break in and find out that mostly what we have is amateur stuff, and then they get caught. Call the cops. Don't be a hero. That's all I'm saying. It was the third night, the last night that he'd be around with me, that I asked about the weird woman people kept seeing. Charles rolled his eyes, and he looked up from his TikTok that he was watching, and took his feet off the desk. Clearly, this was not the first time he had fielded this kind of question, and I guess he thought it was best to get it out of the way. Look, the blue dress lady is a myth. She doesn't exist. It's just a spooky story they tell the new guy so they can laugh at them later. Just don't worry about it. It'll be better for you. I shook my head, telling him that I wanted to know, and he sucked his teeth and tried not to lose it. Okay, you really want to know. When the school opened in 1947, one of the first major players at the school was a lady named Selma Natras. She was a great painter, at least that's how the story goes, and then one day she just kind of lost it. She painted and painted and painted. She stopped going to classes, she stopped eating, and then one morning, she just vanished. No one was sure why, but she was just gone. Well, she was gone for a while. After that, people started seeing her around. What do you mean? I asked. Like a ghost? Sometimes. They say they see her in the halls, but some of your predecessors say she stalks them through the halls. They can't go anywhere without feeling eyes on them. And the last guy I trained kept talking about the pictures. Pictures? I asked, not sure what he meant. I don't know. He just kept mumbling about the pictures and how they were following him. I don't know, but he was one of the ones that stopped showing up. We didn't talk much for the rest of the night, and it was, unfortunately, the last night that I had company. The next night, I was on my own. It wasn't too bad. I mostly just sat around and watched cameras. I was trying to take it seriously, but it's hard not to slip into bad habits when all you have to look at is the security monitors. I'm sure I missed a few rounds while I was watching Netflix and playing mobile games, but the rounds I went on were different than the night before. The art was still interesting. I liked seeing the stuff they added from the students, but I felt watched as I went about my assigned rounds. It could have been the hollow eyes of the statues that sat in some of the halls. It could have been the painted eyes of the pictures that hung in every available surface, but it didn't feel like the inanimate objects around me. It felt like the eyes of a predator as it stalked me through the woods. The second night working on my own, I began to see something out of the corner of my eye. It was subtle at first, just a little blip here and there, but it always seemed to follow me when I was on my rounds. There was something else, too. It was harder to nail down, but it started to sound like a whisper. Someone was calling to me, trying to get my attention, but they didn't seem to know who I was. Hey, it was creeping across my senses. Look over here. It would slither across my gray meat. It was weird, but I chalked it up to being by myself in a dark place at night. The lights in the school were kept low at night, mostly just the little lights that show the paintings and the artwork, and that might have been adding to the creep factor of the place. By night 3, I was seeing something blue, something that was stalking me through the halls. I continued to walk, not wanting to invite it to chase, but it was hard. It wasn't a big something. It was like, I don't know, like watching fireflies or fairy lights. but it definitely followed me. I started to think it was moving between the paintings, but that was crazy. Most of the paintings were pastoral landscapes, fields, or trees or things. So, the blue fairy that kept bobbing in my peripheral kind of stood out. I would turn suddenly, trying to catch sight of it, and see a landscape at sunset or a tranquil forest. I would spin around, and there was Main Street or the Cape. The blue was gone, but not completely gone. The longer it went on, the more I began to notice the blue thing hiding in the paintings. The blue blur hiding behind an oak tree. The blue smudge sitting way back in the meadow. The blue speck peeking from the windows of the apartment over the Mercantile. Each time I turned, I heard someone trying to get my attention, and sometimes I could hear laughter too. The high-pitched tinkling of a woman's laughter. This went on for a week, but the woman in the painting didn't stay a smudge. Suddenly, there was a bigger smudge in a landscape that looked surprisingly like a small woman. I rounded a corner to find a little Thumbelina standing on a bridge overlooking a river. She didn't move, but I felt sure that she hadn't been there earlier. I would walk past these paintings once an hour, and I'd gotten a good look at some of them. Her blue dress stood out, and I was sure that I would have seen if she'd been there. Seeing it made me feel weird, but what could I do? They were paintings. It wasn't like they could just gain things they didn't have before. Right? The longer the night went on, the more nervous I became. She had begun the night like the last three, hiding and standing in the background as she studied me. But tonight was different. She didn't move when I was looking, but I knew she was. Every round she would get closer and closer to the canvas. Was this the woman the others were talking about? Those eyes. I became sure that she was the one who was stalking me. It no longer felt like she was just following me. It felt like I was meat being hunted by a predator. Charles, and remember Charles, was on the other night shift, and I came to talk to him about it. I didn't think he could help, but I needed to talk to somebody. He was surprised to see me, and when I asked again about the woman, he blew out a breath in frustration. I knew if I told you the story, you'd fixate on it. All the other night shift guys do too. She isn't real. She doesn't exist. It's just a stupid old story. It's a legend. There is no blue lady. You sound like Gavin, I swear. I asked him who Gavin was, and he wrote down an address and handed it to me. He didn't just leave. He called the dean of the school and told them that he'd never be back. I had to get up in the middle of the night and come take over the rest of his shift. He left his keys in the door and a resignation letter written on a napkin in the school mailbox. He wouldn't even come back to get his last check. We had to send it to him. I see him online sometimes. I think he runs a forum for paranormal stuff or something like that. If you have questions, then go talk to him. I'm done hearing about this crap. Do you hear me? I'm done. I found Gavin pretty easily on Facebook, and Charles hadn't been wrong. Gavin was into a lot of different legends and ghost stories, but the Blue Lady was one that he came back to a lot. He talked about the month that he had worked for the Charleston Art College, and how he had been stalked by the Lady in Blue. She follows me through the pictures. I don't know how she does it, but she moves from painting to painting, watching and waiting for her moment to strike. She likes to see her prey getting scared, getting weak, and then, when she has your mind so eroded that you're half crazy, she grabs you and drags you into the pictures. I'm convinced that's what's happened to the other security guards. They didn't just leave work suddenly. They didn't just quit without word. And they didn't just skip town for whatever reason the college is pimping these days. They were taken, and they will never come back. I thought about this for the next few days, doing research and looking into local legends about the school. There were the usual ghost stories about seeing a woman in blue walking the halls, people hearing voices at night. But there were also some stories about Selma Nostris and how she was widely believed to be a witch. She had been a colorful character around town, and people often talked about how her former lovers wound up dead or the subject of unfortunate accidents. She was 65 when she went missing, working late at the art college one night, and the legend about the lady in blue had begun not long after that. I was still thinking about it when I went back to work on Friday, and it would turn out to be my last night at the college. I went out to walk my first round, and I saw her right away. I'd gotten used to looking for her, and she was there in the background of the pictures hung in the viewing hall. There was a blue splotch in the background of a fall landscape, a deep blue something on a bridge and a picture of Raymond Park, and a blonde woman in blue sitting on the front porch of the Mercantile. She was watching me, keeping an eye on me as I went about my rounds. But it felt different tonight. It felt like someone was stalking me again, like I was being hunted by a wild animal every time I went about my rounds. I came to dread my hourly rounds. I hated feeling like a kid at a zoo, and as I went through my rounds, she got closer to the frame with each hour that passed. She was having a picnic on the grass of Raymond Park. She was leaning on the banister of the hotel. She was looking at me through the boughs of a tree, and those eyes, the eyes just kept boring into me. It was like a snake hypnotizing a bird, and I found myself looking away with some difficulty. Her smile was coquettish, her lips pulled into a hungry little smile, but it was after midnight when she finally made her move. I was rounding a corner, arguing with myself on whether or not I was being an idiot, when I stopped dead in my tracks. At the corner, where there had been a picture of a field at sunset, there was now a blonde woman in a blue dress, staring out at me with a sinister smile. I knew what had been there. I was sure of what had been there, but my mind railed against it, saying I must have been wrong. I walked past her, trying not to look, but when her smile widened to show a mouthful of sharp teeth, I was nearly too late to stop myself from being taken. Her lacquered nails settled around my arms, and I felt the cruel claws fasten onto me. Her strength was monstrous, and I could feel those nails through the fabric of my uniform top. I never even thought about it. I just ran. I ran flat out, wincing as the nails cut into me. And as I pulled hard, I heard her soft, whispery voice calling to me. She was begging me to come back, to talk to her, but my adrenaline was running and I just wanted to get away. I pulled, and finally I felt her bony fingers give a little. I jerked hard as I felt the arms of my shirt rip. I was running through the halls, running for my office, but I could see her grinning from the frame of what had once been a landscape. She was waiting for me, only half her face visible behind the corner of the frame. And I pivoted and turned back as I tried to find a safe place to hide. I saw the bathroom, the one 2 doors down from the security office, and I ran in and closed the door behind me. There was no art in here, nothing she could use, but I kept an eye on the mural that had been drawn on the walls all around the room. I sagged against it when I didn't see a blue speck beginning to grow, and I contemplated what I should do. I did as I'd been told. I called the police. I told them I had a break-in, and that I'd been grabbed and surprised. I had a gun, but what good was that going to do me? I told them I needed assistance at once, and they said they'd be right over. I stayed on the line with the operator, and when the police arrived, I opened the door slowly and went to let them in. The police were there for a while, leaving just before dawn. I told them that someone had been hiding in the gallery hallway and had grabbed me when I came around the corner. I fought them off and got to a safe place. Then I called the police, as I'd been told to do. They rolled their eyes a little, thinking it suspicious that an ex-cop, ex-CO had called the cops when they were armed, but the dean, who had arrived not long after the police, praised me for my quick thinking. I was sent home, told to take a few days off to process what had happened, but I've already drafted my resignation letter. I can't go back. I, too, know what Gavin keeps obsessing over, and I won't be a victim. I'll go back to prison before I become the latest victim of the Lady in Blue.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning, as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.